All right, we'll go ahead and get started. It's 2:15, and so I definitely want to respect everyone's time. My name is Dr. Renarda Jones, also known as Dr. Ren, and I am the founder of an organization called Diverse Research Now. And I'm excited to spend this time with you, caregivers, today. Definitely dear to my heart, caregivers. You guys are the real MVPs. Um, and today is all about making clinical trials make sense to you. Okay. We want to make sure that it's not a scary thing. And we were helping you to see how research can work for your loved ones and not just study them. Okay. That's one thing that we want to make sure you know. Okay, let me pull up. Actually, let me go ahead and share my slides. Almost forgot about those. Okay, you should now see my slides here. So if you signed up for this session, it's called Clinical Trials 101, Making Research Work for Everyone, Understanding Dementia Clinical Trials, a Caregiver's Guide. All right, I will go to the next slide. So first, I just want to welcome you. Um, This is a safe space. I always want to make sure that you understand that this is a judgment-free zone. Um, some of you may trust research and some of you may not. We're having we can have an honest conversation today. And it's all centered around you. Okay. It's okay if you don't trust, research, and let's have that conversation. My goal is really just to educate and not pressure. Okay. Why we are here. Um, Many caregivers tell me that they wish they had more options. Clinical trials is how we get more options. And so dementia impacts families deeply, as you know, um, and you need support. And so clinical trials can be looked at as a way of support. Research creates future treatments. Definitely want those, right? We need those future treatments to help with this condition. And then, of course, inclusion matters. We want to make sure we're including everyone, all people, into the discussion. So we're making sure that the treatments work for everyone. And without research, there's no progress in how we find treatments. Okay, what is a clinical trial? Um, a clinical trial is a simply structured research study. So it's a research study. A scientist is asking a question, and we are trying to find the answers to a very important question, right? And let me tell you, it does not happen without volunteers. And that's why my organization, we focus in on the volunteers, those participants, because we know that you all need
You
support.
all need support.
Um,
Um,
one second.
one second.
Has requested captions for this. Okay. Okay, I enabled those captions. Okay, so you all need support because you are the volunteers, and it's not some these clinical trials are kind of intense sometimes, and so our organization actually has advocates that will help you to support get through this experience. Um, some clinical trials do have treatments and some have interventions. And so what that means is that some clinical trials you can take medications and some others use like lifestyle programs that you can try, caregiving tools, and memory interventions. Okay. So it's not all about just the medications with the clinical trial. You can do other things. Okay. And of course, it's always going to be looking for safety and effectiveness. Clinical trials, there's 4 phases of clinical trials, and every drug that you or I have ever used had to go through this process. It has to go through the clinical trial, and it has to look to see if it's safe and if it's effective for us before it comes to market. And that's why it has to follow strict protocols. So there's a protocol for every clinical trial, and it's a strict protocol for safety reasons. Okay. That's 1 second. Okay. So dementia trials look different. So there's definitely a many different dementia trials. Like I was saying that you can have a medication trial where you're taking a medication. There's lifestyle intervention trials, caregiving programs, early detection trials. Early detection trials are huge right now in the field because the field right now is looking to prevent this dementia. And so early detection trials are a big a thing right now. And so again, you're not always taking a drug. Some focus on brain games, nutrition. Nutrition is huge when it comes to dementia. Other things that are big for dementia is sleep. Of course, again, we want to support the caregiver. So some trials are looking at caregiver stress, um, and those early diagnosis tools. Okay. Okay. Why caregivers matter in trials. And this is really specific to dementia trials because the caregivers for dementia trials are so important. You guys are the study partners. Most dementia trials have study partners because as your loved one might not be able to remember, might be going through, having thinking issues, we need someone, a loved one there that is going to tell us what's really going on. And so that's why caregivers are so important in dementia trials. You guys are the ones who are going to provide observations. You're going to observe, of course, you're observing your loved one. You're the ones who is going to support their participation because you're probably going to bring them to the clinical trial. You are the ones who is tracking their behavior changes. So I also am a clinician working with a company called Cog State where we do assessments on a regular basis for people who might or might not be living with dementia. And we ask questions, the questions are usually like, hey, what were they doing 6 months ago? Has there been a change in 6 months? Is there things that you've noticed in their behavior? So these questions are super important, and so we depend on the caregivers so much. And of course, you as the caregiver, you're advocating for your loved one, and advocating is so important. And so you are so important. Okay, what participation looks like? Participation can be many things. Every study is different. All right. Some require monthly visits, some require quarterly visits, some virtual visits. There's virtual visits where with in studies. Um, and participation is always explained up front. So, but when you're signing that informed consent, everything should be explained up front. So everything listed here, the screening visits. the memory testing that is done in a dementia study, brain scans, study medication, follow-ups, all that is listed out in your informed consent and should be explained to you up front. So it's different for every study, but these are some of the things that do go into um, participating in a dementia clinical trial. Okay, addressing fears and concerns. Definitely want has to have this slide in here because I work in the community a lot, and of course, I hear these fears and these concerns, and they are warranted. It's okay. It's okay to have these fears and concerns, and you should. One of the things that we hear all the time is about the guinea pig. Am I going to be a guinea pig? And I always tell people you're definitely not a guinea pig. You know, guinea pigs don't really have a choice. You know, in clinical trials today, you definitely have a choice to be involved. So there are safety protections that exist. Again, that informed consent that I mentioned, you have to sign that informed consent before they can do anything. You can withdraw at any time. Hey, that it's up to you. You can withdraw from a study at any time. And again, here, I already said it. Informed consent is required. So today's trials are definitely heavy regulated, okay, and monitored. And this is how they're heavy regulated and monitored. This is the ethics and protection slide. Every study must pass an ethics review before it even begins. Okay, so participant safety is the priority always. So you have boards like IRBs, which is institutional review boards. Those is a group of people. They're usually doctors from the hospital, and then also their community members as well. And they're reviewing these protocols before they even come to they even can be done. They're reviewing these protocols to make sure that they are safe and that they make sense, you know, for the community. Patient rights protected. We definitely make sure that your rights are protected. That has to be in that informed consent. That's a section in the informed consent that talks about your rights. So it's clear that you know what your rights are while you're participating in a study. There's ongoing safety monitoring. These groups are usually called data safety boards, DSBs, DSMBs, data safety monitoring boards. And they are ongoing safety boards that are um, looking at the study as the study is going on. They're constantly reviewing the safety of the study. And transparency is required. You know, it's important. I tell the sites, clinical sites, that it's so important to be upfront and transparent with participants on how the study really is going to go. So you can make an informed decision on if you want to get involved. Um, all right. Barriers for underrepresented communities. And this information is in here really because clinical trials have historically been underrepresented in some communities and amongst Black and Brown communities. And when we say that is it's not they are not represented well in the trials. And so we want to change that because again, like I said in the beginning, we need everyone involved in these trials so we can get answers and understand the problems for everyone. And this is where the work for my organization really lies, and the heart of our organization really lies. Many diverse families aren't represented in dementia trials. And this may have impact treatment effectiveness for them. And so we want to definitely change that. Of course, there are historical mistrust that comes into play. These are the barriers. There's a lack of access. There's transportation issues, awareness gaps. And so my organization is definitely working on all these barriers. And hopefully we're going to see some improvement soon. But yeah, it's just super important that everyone is involved in this process. So we can make sure the medications and the treatments and the interventions can work for everyone. Okay. Why inclusion strengthens science? Yes. So if we're not included, if everyone is not included in the research, the treatments again may not work for everyone. And it's not inclusion is isn't just about charity. It's it's a science. It's this is science. This is not anything else but science. And so because people have different cultures, different genetics, different lifestyle behaviors, um, and all of that goes into how medications might work for them. So that's why it's so important to have everyone involved in this process. Again, better treatment option outcomes for everyone is what we want. Okay. How to find dementia trials. Okay, I think we're coming up here because I don't want to just, I'm gonna have a few more slides and then we're gonna get to some questions. Definitely didn't want to talk to you all for a whole hour. Definitely wanted to get some questions in here before we get done. Anyway, how to find dementia trials. Dementia trials are usually done at memory clinics. There's memory clinics around at different in the big cities. A lot of one of the barriers that wasn't on the other slide is that sometimes in rural areas there's not a lot of clinics that are doing these memory studies, and so you kind of have to come to the big cities to get access to these memory studies. Um, but it but um hopefully we'll be changing that soon. We are the field is really trying to work on how to include those that are living in rural areas as well. Um, but you can find them, dementia trials at memory clinics, research hospitals, clinicaltrials.gov. I don't know if anyone's ever been on there. That site is it's not too so user friendly. Sometimes our organization will use that site to help people find studies. The fourth one here is community organizations. Organizations like my own, we actually help people find studies that might work for them. And we'll use clinicaltrials.gov and some other sites to help you find dementia trials because I mean, it's not always very visible, these trials. So if you're ever interested in one, please reach out to us or you can definitely go to clinicaltrials.gov on your own. Okay. So just to plug give a little plug to my organization that DRN Diverse Research Now and how we help caregivers. We do a lot of informational sessions. And so if you don't mind, at the end of this to definitely follow us. We do educational sessions, and of course, HFC is a huge resource as well. So we are both working to educate the community and caregivers around dementia. And so trial navigation support, again, we have advocates, and I believe HFC have some programs. Community events, we're on a regular basis in the community giving brain health advice and tips to seniors and caregivers and people who need this information. And so we're on a regular doing that in the community, giving research referrals. Like I said, we will help you find a research study if you need it. So there is resources. Please use the resources. We are here to help. Okay, this is my slide for the break. Okay. Midsection Q&A. Okay, so anyone have any questions right now? I didn't want to just keep talking. So I want to make sure I put that slide in there. Does anybody have any questions so far? Any
Hi.
cons Uh-huh.
Hi, Dr. Ren. My name
Hi.
is Ashley,
Hi, Ashley.
and I started my caregiving journey for my Nana who raised me, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago. I was very young and I did not know I was a caregiver. I just knew that I
Yeah.
was a loved one taking care of a loved one because that's what
Yep.
you do.
Yep.
So to now be in a different phase of my life, understanding that there's so many amazing resources and clinical trials and all these things. I also just recently went through my uncle, so my Nana's son also had Alzheimer's and he just passed in December 28th. And now
Hmm.
I'm just in the phase of life where I'm preparing, if my mother gets this, how can I be more prepared the next time? Um,
Yeah.
and so I wanted to know about I know in the previous slide you were talking about DRN's work. And so are you local to the LA community or do you have partnerships with people around the country? Because I feel like I'm one of the rare people. I'm on the East Coast.
Okay.
So just
Okay.
wanted to know if there are any resources that you know of on this
Yeah.
side of the country.
Yes, we are local to LA. We started the organization in Southern California, but we are a national organization, and so we go to all cities. We're doing something in Chicago soon, a brain health summit, and we're trying to get that brain health summit to different areas, different cities. Where are you in on the East Coast?
I'm right outside of Washington, D.C.
Okay, okay.
So if you need
Yes.
connections, you need a little coordinator over here, I got you.
Yes, yes, we have connections for sure everywhere. Like we have people, we might not be having events right now in those areas just because we're still growing to those areas, but we are coming for sure. And we have in if we need to have an event there, we can set up something. We understand that there's different needs in different cities and different areas. And so as we learn about those needs, we want to help, set up our resources there. So yes, if you want to reach out to us, like specifically for a need that you might have, please go to our website at www.diverseresearchnow.com, and you can send us a message, and we'll get back to you for sure. Anyone else have any questions? And I have a question for you guys. Has anyone ever been in a trial, had their loved one in a clinical trial here?
I'm applying for one right now, actually.
Awesome. Okay. And
It-
what
It's
what are your
actually,
thoughts so far?
well, it's for a monoclonal antibody that has shown a lot of good stuff for dementia, but
Yeah.
they're actually recruiting right now for autism. And my son is on the spectrum because I'm the sandwiched caregiver.
Okay.
But this thing, is a neuro anti-inflammatory, so it should work well for autism too. So we're kind of excited to get to try it. But in the case of dementia, my mom was the first TB006 patient. So
Wow.
she still lives on her own and has been caring for herself for almost 3 years past the point where I thought she could.
Wow.
And I just got incredibly lucky that my brother was the first principal investigator in the country.
Wow. Okay. Okay.
So
Yeah.
now there are about 200, but that's how my mom got in so early. And, after 4 doses, she started doing alterations in her sewing machine.
Whoa.
I was so blown away that I told my brother, you got to introduce me to this company. So
Yeah.
now I bring other doctors on board. So if anybody has a neurologist and they want that neurologist to become IRB approved, get in touch with me.
All right.
And it's not a pitch. There's no cost or anything.
Yeah.
We cover all of the IRB fees. The doctors don't put up any money. We just get them approved if they're
Yeah.
qualified.
Hey, we
And
need more neurologists for sure. So that's doing research.
well, we bring them into the expanded access program, and then they can actually order TB006 on behalf of the patient. Every patient has to become approved by the medical monitors as well. But that's how this study for TB006 works. It's not a placebo group study. Unfortunately, it's a cash study. But the way the FDA has structured it is we can only recoup direct manufacturing costs while doctors are charging, what they need to charge to compensate their practice. But it winds up not being good for diversity.
Mm, mm.
And I don't know how to counteract that when 2018 right to try law says that insurance companies could cover investigative medicine. Medicaid, Medicare says they can do it too. They just don't.
Yeah, I guess
So
that's a whole nother
whose job is that?
conversation. Yeah, that's a whole nother huge conversation, I think. But thank you so much for your work, Jonathan.
My
I hope,
pleasure.
yes, thank you for
And
your
hopefully
comment.
there's a little hope for people out there.
Yeah, thank you. That does bring some hope, I hope. Um, anyone else? Anyone else? Anyone else? Let's see how many people we have. 25 people here. All right. Okay, I shall go on. Okay. Okay, so let's talk about some questions that you might ask as a caregiver, if you're considering clinical trials. So a lot of times some questions are, will it cost money? Um, Most trials are the cost is covered by the study. So mostly this question is no. Okay. Um, I don't want to say always because I don't know about every single study, but most times this question is no, it will not cost you anything. Um, as far as money. Is the transportation covered? Most times, well, I don't want to say most times. A lot of times, the transportation is now covered. This is something that has we have been in the field fighting for in really trying to make these studies more accessible to the community. That was a big thing where it didn't used to be covered, transportation. But now a lot of studies are covering transportation for participants to get to the visit. Okay. Can we stop at any time? I mentioned that already. Yes, you can. This is sometimes these trials can get very taxing. Like I said, I've worked on many studies where you've had to come to the clinic monthly, and maybe even several times a month for years. So these studies sometimes go on for several, maybe 4 or 5 years. So they're longitudinal studies. They're not short. Many of them. Not saying that that's for all of them, but a lot of them are longitudinal studies because, we really need to, get a good number of people for and look at people for a long time to really understand what's going on. So a lot of times in that time, as life happens, you might need to stop. We don't want that, but it might happen, and that's okay. Um, Will we get results? This is a big one. A lot of people want to know if they'll get results for being in a clinical trial. Because the clinical trial does do a lot of labs and tests and procedures, and you want to know if I can have those results. S- This is a sometimes question because sometimes the sponsors cannot provide that information if it's study data and they're still looking at all the data, and they're still assessing the data and they're still like, evaluating it and things, they might not want to give you results right away. But usually by the end, hopefully they can share results with you. So this is a question to ask up front, if you're going to be in a clinical trial, to see what that answer might be in the beginning. So you can look forward to that because you should be able to get some results, maybe not all, but they should be able to share some results with you. Okay, let's talk about benefits on participation. The so some of the benefits to participation is, hey, you get access to new treatments, right? Um, I tell people in the community sometimes when you want to, sometimes people don't know when to think about a clinical trial. At what point in my journey should I think about a clinical trial? Well, if the treatment is not working for you, that's actually a good reason to think about, okay, let's see what new treatments are out there. Let's see what else is being discovered. Um, and so access to new treatments is a benefit, um, I would say. You have an expert medical team. So in clinical trials, these are experts in this field. So these are people who have been studying dementia or brain health um, for a long time, and they're doctors and they know, they know so much, and you're getting that expert attention, that expert advice when you're in a clinical trial. So that's a plus. That's a plus. Um, Closer monitoring. Again, like I was saying, you get labs pretty often. So in these clinical trials, you'll probably be getting um, labs monthly, if not more. So that is actually a good thing because it's constantly someone looking at to make sure, your labs are good. And if there's any, and they're not, and if there's any issues, they're going to like do something about it. It's not just gonna be, oh, something's elevated, let's ignore that. No, they're not gonna ignore when things are elevated. They are going to address it. So that's a good thing that it's being monitored on a regular basis. And of course, you're helping future families. Um, Honestly, it helping your family and future families. Honestly, again, we cannot do this work without volunteers, without caregivers like yourselves. All right. Okay, so when trials may not be a good fit because we don't, so that's one of the things I make sure we don't always just talk about the good. We're going to talk about the risk and the bad when it might not fit as well because it's true. Everyone, a clinical trial might not fit for everyone, and that's okay. Um, and so if there's advanced disease stage, it might not fit. Your loved one the medication might not help, or and so that's just something that you have to consider when depending on, what you're dealing with at home, and something to consider and something to talk to the study team about. I would say um don't make that decision on your own. If you're interested in a clinical trial, go and find out to see if they could be involved, but then have that conversation with the clinician there at the site to see if, hey, if my is my loved one's disease too advanced for this study? It's a good question. And so they might not be a good fit for that reason. Travel limitations. Again, like I was saying, sometimes these studies are in big cities and you can't get to them because you live in a rural area. So sometimes it's not a good fit for that reason. But there sometimes are uh, virtual studies that are going on. I think I mentioned virtual studies in the beginning that you can do. Um, but yeah, sometimes the travel is just too much, and it's understandable. Health exclusions. Yes, this is a big one. So with when it comes to clinical trials, you have protocols. I told you guys about the protocols that you have. But then inside the protocols, there is a big inclusion exclusion list. So there's a list of things of people of what they're looking for, the people that they want included, right? And then there's a things that people safety, and this is all about safety. Usually this is all about safety. So exclusion, there's things that they don't want people to have, like when I say don't want people to have health conditions that they don't want them to have. So when it says health exclusions, there are some health conditions that you might have that make you not a good fit to be in a dementia study. And so that's why you have those screening visits. So those screening visits is where we find out all your health information, your health history, so we can see like, okay, is this a good fit? Will what else is going on? Are they gonna, you know, be a good fit into this study? So definitely, that could be a reason, why you're not a good fit. And caregiver capacity, like I was saying in the beginning, these studies really require a lot of time sometimes, and caregivers are not always able to, right? You might still be working, you might not be able to bring them to the visits. On a regular basis. And most times the sites are working around this. I mean, I have really seen sites to open up Saturdays, evenings, just to work around the caregiver schedule. So don't let that be a reason why you don't seek out a trial, but that might be a reason why you're not a good fit. It just depends on the site. And okay, that's okay. I was gonna say I'm like, I want you to guys to ask any questions if any questions come up, but we will have another questions section at the end here. Okay. So making research work for everyone, which is the title of this section here. Um, this work is really about making research more human, more accessible, and more inclusive, And so education is a must, which is something that I do on the regular in the community, because I think that a lot of people are hesitant. When I was talking about earlier about the different communities, many Black and Brown communities that are very hesitant in being involved in these studies, a lot of times it's because they don't know. They're not educated about it. And so we do a lot of education in the community surrounding research, just so they can understand like how it all kind of falls into place, how it could help them, how it could be valuable. And just have those real conversations. I always say what we're trying to do is we're trying to normalize this conversation in the community, because it should be a conversation. If dementia strikes your family, and it should be something that you think about. Oh, I wonder if there could be a trial for my loved one, just so we can learn more, so they can learn more. I find that a lot of participants in these trials, they find out so much about their condition, while they're even in the trial. So education is huge. Of course, building trust. Again, I was talking about earlier, that transparency. For me, that's what matters. That being transparent, being open about the ins and outs of these trials, really building that trust with the community, and consistently sharing with them. One of the things that we pride ourselves on, diverse research now, is we are in the community on a regular basis giving this education. And so that means, hey, we're trust building, we're building trust. We're letting the community know, like, hey, we're here, we're not going anywhere. We're going to be here to help you and bring you resources and bring you education on a regular basis, which is super important. Community partnerships. Um, there's so many organizations that are working in the community. Why not partner, right? Why not? So many community part local um organizations are already in the community doing the work, right? They've been there for years, already doing the work. Why not partner with them to get this information out, right? And then advocacy. Advocacy. We're huge about advocates. We have a whole area department of advocates who support individuals through this work, through their research journeys. Um, Again, this is our way from us. When I think about advocacy, I think about empowering the patient. Really having, so they know like they have someone that kind of has their back. Um, and you're empowering them because, hey, you know, I have another set of eyes or another set of ears is going to hear the same information that I'm hearing, and they're going to advocate for me and they're going to go to bat for me. Sometimes you don't have the strength, right? Especially as caregivers. Sometimes you don't have the strength to advocate, and sometimes the patient themselves, of course, they don't have the strength to advocate for themselves. So it's it's advocacy is huge for us. Okay. And so final thoughts. Just want you to know that you are research partners. Caregivers are research partners. We look at you as research partners, not just supporters, okay? We can, there's absolutely, dementia trials cannot be done without you. So know that you are not alone. Your voice matters. And research needs caregivers. So, there's no way that we can do this by ourselves. Okay. Another question and answer session. Any questions at this point?
Yeah. Hi, Dr. Wren. I'm
Hi.
Amanda.
Hi.
I'm currently a CNA at a memory care facility, which is how I ended up here. But previously, I was a caregiver for my husband that had blood cancer. And I know you guys focus mostly on research, but I was wondering if your organization works with the National Marrow Donor Program. I'm sure you guys know that finding donor matches for people of color is really difficult. And we actually had that problem with my husband, never actually found a good match for him. So just curious.
Yes, we have not been able to do any work in that area, but we have a friend or a colleague of our organization that works that has lupus, and he has an organization for lupus. He's looking for a kidney donor and been looking for a long time for a kidney. And so I do know that there is a um challenge, huge challenge in finding people of color who will be donors. So we would love to do some work in that space. We haven't had a chance to, but that is not off the it, and I know it's not research, but the person that I'm talking about who needed that kidney transplant, he had been in a research study and it had worked well for him, but and that was years ago, but in his journey he is now finding himself needing a kidney. And so when people come into our organization, Diverse Research Now, into our family, we don't let them go. Once they are there, we are going to support them and advocate for them, this even if they're not in a trial, even if they're not in research. So we would love to do that, some work surrounding that. If you have any information you can share with us, please do for us
I wish I
to.
did, but I'll I'll keep an eye out for you guys. I hope you guys venture into that space. That would be amazing.
Okay. Okay. Yes, I would definitely look into it. Any other questions? It's 3 o'clock, so we have, I think, I guess it's okay to end early. I don't know. But any other questions that you have or any anybody have any like bad experiences? Like it doesn't always have to be a positive conversation, or really any real concerns about clinical trials. I mean, we definitely have those real conversations. We don't shy away from that. Okay. Okay. Is anyone on from HFC? Okay, they're probably not here. Okay, well, let me finish. Go ahead and oh, okay. So thank you so much. That is all for me. I want to just honor you caregivers today. Um, I know the work that you do, I know is invisible to so many people, but we know that you need help and resources, and we're here to help you. So thank you so much for coming to this session and learning about clinical trials. Again, reach out to us if you need Diverse Research Now's help on finding trials or let me just see. Oh, actually hadn't looked at the chat. There was some. Okay. Okay. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. Is there an next session that you all are going to tell me, or have you guys, I'm just curious to know how the conference has been going for everyone.
Conference has been really nice so far.
Awesome.
Been a lot of information packed into a couple hours.
Yeah, right? We need more time. We need yeah, we need more time. It's a lot of information. Don't be over. I want to encourage you all try not to get overwhelmed. Just take your notes and want to, battle things is little, a little bit at a time because it can get overwhelming all the information. Again, HFC DRN is here to help. And so many other organizations I'm sure has done done presentations and here. Okay.
Thank you so much. And I'm going to say goodbye. Very informative.
All right. Thank you so much,
Bye-bye.
Rose.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and just say bye to everyone. Thank you for coming, and I hope the rest of the day is beautiful for you. And I'm just gonna stay on to see if someone else comes on from HFC. I wasn't sure how to end the session.